So there's a news program that I watch regularly. And in the last, 3 or 4 months probably, I'm not sure exactly, the host does the news, and then she ends with a good word, a good news, a feel-good story. And every time I watch it, I think, wow, that's really great. I love that. That feels so good. Until this week. This week I changed my mind. Actually, I've been praying over this scripture for about 7 days now, and I realized that this new, well-intentioned, has got it a little backward. You see, she does 50 minutes of telling us all the problems and all the stuff that's wrong, and then she only gives us 3 minutes of good news. Feels a little backwards to me. And I think I realized that after coming home from a week of working in South Texas with refugees. 3 of us had gone to work with our denominational ministry partner, Southwest Good Samaritan Ministries, on a bit of a scout trip for other trips that we might take this winter. As I've had time to process, or what maybe it's God working on me, I realized that I came home with trying not to tell 50 minutes of all the heartbreak and pain and sadness I saw, and ended up only telling about 3 minutes of the good news. And, well, this scripture helped me to refocus. And so this morning I want us to pay careful attention to the 12th chapter of Paul's letter to the church in Rome. You know, it's really easy to focus on all the negative stuff, to doubt your ability to do anything about it, or worse yet, to question your participation in it. Question yourself and your worth and your value and all your good gifts, as we're going to hear a song about in a minute. All the good gifts. And I want to stop a minute and go back and read from a different paraphrase than what I read from earlier, just the first couple of lines, because Eugene Peterson has an interesting way of talking about this. He says, take your everyday, ordinary life, your sleeping and eating, going to work and walking around life, and place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God is doing is the best thing that you can do for God. Don't become so well adjusted to the culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, and this is where I got caught, instead, Paul writes, fix your attention on God. Yep, it's easy to get caught up in all the negative stuff, on all the scary stuff that this day and age brings. But apparently, it's not all that different from first century Rome, because Paul is helping them to stop and say, don't get distracted, stay focused. Stay focused. Fix your attention on God. Don't get distracted. Paul is laying out what sometimes we consider to be really simple truths, so much so that the heading in one of my study Bibles, you know, they put that little heading there in italics to tell you whether you really want to read that or not. You know, because sometimes they give it a heading and you go, I'm going to skip right over that. Well, this one, in one of my Bibles, it says, Marks of a True Christian, from verses about 4 to about 13. Marks of a True Christian. And sometimes when we read that, some of us, especially those of us who have grown up in the church and spent our whole lives in the church, or every second Sunday of our life in the church, we think, oh yeah, I know that one. I got it. We all got a gift, and you got a gift, and I got a gift, and we all got to use our gift. One body, many gifts, blah, blah. Yeah, we got it. Because these marks of a true Christian should be simple enough for us. And yet sometimes we need a little bit of a reboot to hear it differently. Because it's easy to get complacent. It's easy to get in our lane and stay there. And we forget to expect that God is going to show up in our ordinary, everyday, walking around, eating, drinking, sleeping kind of life. And, again, Paul says, stay focused. Stay focused. You know those big fancy cameras? That like the guys at the Star use? Or moms on a soccer field who are trying to get a really good shot of your 11-year-old child? I don't have that. I just have my little smartphone. But anyway, stay focused. There's no autofocus on that thing. To get the right picture, right? You got to manual focus. You got to be really intentional about it. And that takes work to get it there, because it's like binoculars. I resonate better with binoculars. Just when you get it, then you move it a little bit. Well, anyway, stay focused. This scripture, it says a line actually that matched a line that the choir sang. It jumped out at me when they said it. It says, renew our minds to figure out God's will. When we get focused on paying attention to God and what God is doing, we can refocus ourselves on God's will. And as you may know, God's will is not always what we think it ought to be, unfortunately. Now, apparently God knew that I would need this text when I returned from South Texas. And so as I've been reading it all week, this line of stay focused has been my mantra all week. Fix your attention on God. And offer yourself, your whole self. Fix your attention on God. It's real easy for a squirrel. Have those socks been laying there all week? The 11-year-old girl is constantly leaving. Have those been there all week? Stay focused. It's hard sometimes to have the bandwidth because there are so many other things to focus our attention on. Like a horrible hurricane that destroys an entire community. Entire communities. Or, in my case, recovering from the events of the border that Jeannie and Donna, wherever Donna went, Donna Dushin and I saw 2 weeks ago. We were in Brownsville and McAllen working with refugees, and so it was really easy for us, or at least for me. I don't want to speak for my sisters, but it was really easy for me to get caught up in all of the negative stuff and all that the culture is saying and doing and the pain and the heartache and focus on all that is wrong. But when we stopped every day to say, focus, where is God? God, we're going to, we came down here to be the hands and feet of Jesus, so we ought to kind of focus on the God work because God's doing work here. And what are you doing here, God? And how can we plug in? And this text reminded me as I was praying over it all week. The text says that when we do that, when we focus, when we fix our attention on God, you know what the text says the outcome is? God will bring out the best in us. God will bring out the best in us. Sometimes it's just a little hard to get there. Squirrel. Squirrels were everywhere in the Brownsville bus station. Not really. You understand that, right? I mean, that's metaphor. We're okay? All right, good. Okay. Don't want you to think that there's a rodent crisis in the Brownsville bus station. First day, we saw God at work in the Brownsville bus station. And his name was Abuelo. You know what abuelo is, Spanish speakers? grandfather. Good work. You can go next time. I'm telling you, this homeless elderly gentleman is Jesus in the bus station. When new refugees get dropped off after they've got their precious papers, their precious documents, and they're headed to their families with their official refugee status, and they show up at an odd hour when the volunteers from Good Neighbor aren't there yet, Abuelo calls them. He calls those Methodists, and then he tells these precious people who just got dropped off a bus that had an armed guard that you're going to be all right. And he shuffles from one, and he shuffles to the next. And you would think that when you would see that, you'd go, God, yep, there it is. And that'd make your heart real happy. And it does for a second. But when I first witnessed his precious simple work, I struggled a little bit because I thought, this homeless angel has more ability to help than me. I tried to remind myself and to allow Abuelo to remind me that there's always something I could do if I just keep my focus in the right place and offer myself to God as an offering. But I kept getting frustrated because my Spanish wasn't so good, and so I'd try with my Spanish. And as Jeannie and I found out, the more we would try, the more people thought we could speak Spanish. And then they would try to speak to us in Spanish, and then we just made it worse on ourselves, and we'd be like, oh no, no habla español. And if you give them a this is bad in any language. And I thought, I came all the way down here, and I'm supposed to do something. I'm supposed to be these hands and feet of Jesus, but my Spanish is so bad, and I feel so insignificant, and I just want to help. And I want to be more like Donna, because her Spanish is so good. Even though she says it's not fluent. Don't believe her when she says that, by the way. And she's able to sit and help them and understand their bus ticket and remind them, now these papers are important. These are important to you. You got to keep track of these papers. And, you're going to have to go 2 days on this bus. And here's what you're going to do. And she was so good with everybody. And I just felt like I was in Donna's way. I'm just in the way. I'm just standing around like a gawking tourist. And the hands and feet of Jesus are not to be a gawking tourist. That's how I felt. I got frustrated. I kept finding the squirrels instead of staying focused. It reached its peak on Thursday, and I really felt like I was in the way at the McAllen bus station. I'm a doer, many of you know. I'm a doer, and I'm just standing around doing nothing while other people do stuff. So, as people got off the bus, my friend Filiberto says, come on, we got to walk this bunch down to Catholic Charities. When they get off the bus, dropped off from detention centers with their precious refugee papers, we take them down to Catholic Charities because the Methodists are in charge in Brownsville and the Catholics are in charge in McAllen. Jesus does not care. So we had this group of about 15 and trying to walk with them, just gotten off this bus with this armed guard, and I tried to be present and offer a smile, right? Because if you just smile, you'll make it better. And this very pregnant girl, she's a girl, she was a grown woman, but she had this sweet face, and I smiled and nodded at her, which of course was encouragement for her to speak Spanish to me, to which I was just disappointed yet again. I kept finding the squirrels. But what could I do? I want to do more. I got there, and Eli, he's one of the guys in charge at Catholic Charities. I said, Eli, just give me a job. He says, okay, good. You serve soup. Great, I can serve soup, except I can't serve soup because I felt in the way the whole time. And I kept thinking about Donna down helping people find their bus with her perfect Spanish and doing the whole thing. There were so many people, and I'm really trying, but they're scared and confused, and I'm doing my best, and I got my smile, and then they speak Spanish, and I feel bad again. Squirrels were everywhere at Catholic Charities. And then it happened. One of the Sisters of Mercy. I mean, like, these are Catholics, so there really is an order called the Sisters of Mercy, right? She found me. She must have known that I was in the way. And she says, "Oh, I haven't had an opportunity to meet you yet. I'm wondering if you could help me." Praise be! Somebody who thinks I can be helpful up in here. I said, "Yes, sister. Yes, I'm glad to do anything you need me to do." I just wanted to feel helpful. I was overwhelmed with the feeling of helplessness and my white privilege making me feel like I was sticking out like a big sore thumb. And she took me out the back door, not the front door where people were coming in and people were actually trying to work. She took me out the back door of the kitchen and pointed me towards a tractor trailer in the parking lot, out back where I couldn't be in the way. And she said, we hadn't had much notice that these 300 refugees were coming today. And we just learned a little while ago, and so we've kind of been scrambling. And we were so busy trying to get everything ready, we didn't have anybody to do laundry. And if you could, I know it doesn't seem like it's much, but if you could just do laundry, we don't have any clean towels. Nobody can take showers without clean towels. And if I could just get these towels that are currently in this old, sad little washing machine into these dryers that even when you open the door, the drum keeps rolling and I never could figure out how to turn it off. And when I hit the stop, it would go wah, wah. And you got to be quick. You got to get the towels out quick because it's still spinning. And if you shut it, it goes wah, wah. Again, making me feel like I couldn't do my job even, but I thought, laundry. I can do laundry. Anybody else like laundry? Laundry is such a good job, right? Because you start with dirty pile, and then they come out of the dryer, and they're warm and clean, and they smell nice, and you fold them, and you can see that you've actually done something, right? I love laundry. And so I text my best friend because I'm with the Catholics. And I said, "Isn't there a patron saint of laundry workers?" Saint Veronica is the patron saint of laundry workers. And I said, "Thank you, Saint Veronica, for giving me something to do and to get my mind off the squirrels." So many squirrels. And suddenly, I felt so much better. And I went outside because I had the first load done, and I knew they had none over on the men's side. 4 little showers on one side, 4 little showers on the other. No toilets, by the way, which is a trick for people like me, but focus. I took them over, and the kids, they were playing a little soccer, and my kids play soccer, so I kind of played soccer, and then they tried to speak to me in Spanish, and I'm like, "Stay focused, dry towels." She didn't think it was very much, but I thought, yes, focus. I might not be able to speak Spanish or change international policy or build a big, beautiful wall, but I can do towels. I had to keep my focus. And it took me a little while to get off the squirrels, but God finally was able to bring out that best in me, even when I wasn't sure we were ever going to get there. Despite me being in the way with all my dang squirrels, God brought out the best, and there was joy in the towels. I had just kept saying to God, or God kept saying to me, "Stay focused," even though I wasn't doing a very good job of listening. Stay focused. God put me out in that tractor trailer to be reminded there is dignity in a clean, fresh towel, that there is hope in a pair of clean, dry panties for a 10-year-old girl. These trailers, or the Chiefs don't play at noon today, so I can preach for a long time. it's wet. You're in a tractor trailer. And the showers, it's like your camper shower, if you had a shower in your camper. But so it's kind of wet, and this little girl, she's 10, and she comes in with all of her stuff, and her daddy was outside, and she drops her one pair of clean panties in the little wet, and she looks at me like, I had one job, and now they're wet. Well, St. Veronica, I got access to the dryer, sister. So I look up on my Google Translate and said I can fix it. I hadn't fixed really anything or felt like I'd fixed anything all week, but I knew how to run a dryer. I could fix panties that got dropped in the puddle. Thank you, St. Veronica. That's my job for next week, is learning more about St. Veronica. I don't even know who she is, except she's the patron saint of laundry workers. So often, we get so easily distracted by our frustrations and all the squirrels, and we get sideways with ourselves because we think that being the hands and feet of Jesus means we have to do this big, glorious, glamorous thing. And if only I could be Donna and speak Spanish and be there in the bus station and help them get on the bus. Nope, gotta have towels. And so often we think that we get sidelined by frustrating squirrels running about, and we're too easily distracted to stay focused, to allow God to bring out that best in us. And so we just stay on the sidelines, trying to stay out of the way of the people we think are doing the real work. And you would think that a preacher wouldn't have to be reminded of the very simple mark of a true Christian that is in this passage, and that is that you got a gift, and you got a gift, and you got a gift. And some days the gift you think you have is not the gift that God needs you to use in that moment. I got lots of gifts. I do not typically say laundry worker is one of them. I've never put it on a resume, but I may now. Can we add that to my bio? Who's in charge of the website? Can we add that to my bio? Laundry worker. But when you do what Paul challenges these folks to do, and that is to offer yourself to God completely, without all the expectations that cause us to get distracted, God can and will if we get ourselves out of the way, bring out the best of us. And God will give us a glad and generous heart. Without, as it says in verse 5. Verse 5 is very helpful. Don't compare ourselves with each other and try to be something we're not. Donna's doing her thing. You do yours. It's okay. It's okay. Jeannie did it too. I'm almost done, I promise. Jeannie did it too. Jeannie also does not speak Spanish. The more she tried, the more she made it on herself. But the other thing the scripture says, it kind of gets lost down. There's a lot in here. I'm going to preach on it next week too. It says there are days you just have to recognize what God wants from you and quickly respond to it. You know what Jeannie did? It was not what she thought she was going down there to do. Jeannie became a gospel writer. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark. Jeannie became a 21st century gospel writer. Her gift, whether she knew it or not, was to be the recorder of all that we did. Because when you're down in the weeds and think of it, you can't really see what's going on. Because she didn't speak Spanish, and you're trying not to be distracted by the squirrels, she can see all the squirrels running around. She can be separate from it. And she was the storyteller of all the things that happened. She was the teller of the good news that we saw. Yes, there was a story of heartbreak and grief, but she was witness to God at work, and she told that story. And I know she will keep telling it, because the other thing that is in the scripture, there's a lot in here. You should go read it, really. Romans 12. It's not that long. It says that when we really offer ourselves to God, it will change us from the inside out. Which of course is the problem. always a
There's
choice.
always a choice.
And I could have,
I
won't speak for
won't
Jean,
speak for
but I
Jean,
could have
but I could have stayed frustrated and bitter and disappointed, and some days we choose that.
But there was joy.
There was joy in doing laundry.
And God says,
focus on that.
Focus on,
Focus
as
on,
verse
as
11
verse 11 says.
Don't hesitate
to be enthusiastic.
As Suzanne
As Suzanne said with the kids,
be on fire in the Spirit as you serve the Lord.
Guys, taking our ordinary everyday lives, going to work, walking around, leading sleeping lives, and offering it to God as an offering with joy. That's a choice.
That is a choice.
A
A choice we
don't
don't
always take.
Because it's safer to stay on the
sidelines out of the way.
Or as our
preacher
at Regional
Assembly last weekend said, to just be critical of
everything else
that's going on.
Sometimes it's easier
to be critical of everything else, because otherwise you end up like Jean and you be critical of yourself. You learn Spanish.
Why did the two
learn French?
Seriously. We get so critical
of ourselves, and we don't even give God a chance.
We make a choice
to give in to our own frustration. Of course, the real thing that worries us about this
is when
we make that choice of giving ourselves to God as an offering.
We
release control of the outcome.
I didn't go down there.
to be laundry worker. She didn't go down there to be a 21st century gospel writer. That was not why we went.
But we
released control of it.
We said, okay,
God, here I am. I'm going to show up and I'm going to focus on you. And then God uses you, and not how you think it ought to happen. That's what God needs you to do.
And it challenges
us and scares us. But the text promises that when we do it, God brings out the best in us. And that changes us from the inside out.
But when we stay
focused on the things
really
that
matter.
really matter.
God doesn't know
anything else. He'll bring out the very best, if only we will offer.
And
today, my friends, what I know for sure, after I've preached about 6 minutes too long,
is that when
God brings out my best self,
I find
a glad and generous heart
at the center
of it.
Full
of gifts.
And as Reverend
Ryan said last week, that, my friends, is a story worth telling. Maybe so for each and all of us. Amen.